Hey, man, thanks for having me. Awesome.
Hey, it is so good to like put a face to you, the artist, and the person because we've had so much interaction with you, like on stream and Instagram and, through hearing your music. So it's really, really cool to see that you're like a real human because you are a
A
machine.
real human being. Yeah,
So
just know that this is the face of someone who's right now a little bit nervous, but I'm all right. I'm gonna be fine.
you're going to do
Oh, you
great.
got this, man. You're gonna
You
do
got
all
this.
right.
Hey, fun fact, we're nervous every time. And we do this every week. And we're still like, oh my God, how do we
Like, wait,
person?
what?
How do we human? Warp Sector is very excited that you're real.
Yeah, man. We've been partying together and hanging out and having this awesome community, this awesome vibe, and you've been such a staple in it, dude. Like supporting all these other artists and sharing your music and really like helping motivate a lot of us, man. And it's been really cool, and it's great to actually get to meet you and sit down and talk with you.
Well, thank you. It's been very fun for every Tuesday having something to look forward to. It's a very nice stream, very good music, and good artists, good influences. And to be honest, since I started listening to you guys and to the stream and submitting stuff to you guys, I've been feeling a lot more inspired because there's just so many different sounds and genres and things happening in the stream, and people are so nice and talking to each other that it actually boosts your confidence and makes you want to just make more music. So it's been very helpful for me as
Aw,
an
Hell
artist.
yeah,
that's
that's awesome,
amazing.
man.
Well, and you're such a huge part of that. Like, I know 98% of the people watching have had you like gas them up and bump their stuff and been one of the loudest and like proudest supporters of some of this music. So, like, you definitely add to a lot of the awesome energy here. And I know everyone watching is very, very, very grateful for you because you are just so much fun to interact with. And it's just so cool seeing you geek out over the music every week and everything. It's so cool. And then when you
Well,
submit, your
nice.
stuff is equally as good. So that's awesome. So what is going on in your world right now? What's going on
Well,
for
there's a
you?
lot. There's a lot going on actually. Because right now, finally, our house, my wife and I, we just bought a house, and it's just now being finalized. So we're probably going to be moving in January, February. So
Oh yeah.
while that
Nice.
is happening, it should have been ready by now. But with all the supply shortages that's happening all over the country, it took a while longer. But once we
Yeah.
finally move into our house, I'm finally going to have a studio. And my wife is also a musician. She plays piano. She's actually
Oh
the one who
wow, that's
introduced me
awesome.
to piano playing. I
Oh,
was
that's so
very
cool.
against it because it was not metal. But yeah, in fact, my artist name, the GJ, it's not my name. My name is Guilherme Adriano. Guilherme is that's Portuguese, right? I'm from Brazil, just by the way. So the GJ, my artist name is actually G representing Guilherme, my name,
Okay.
Okay.
J representing my wife's name, Jamili, the
Oh
GJ,
wow.
because she gives
Wow.
me lots and lots of insights in music, and she teaches me chords and progressions that I don't know. And she is also the one that goes over my final product and tells me like, "Oh, this is shit, cut it out. Oh, this is good, keep it in." So
Yeah, that's amazing.
she helps me keep the song better. Because she has very different ears, and she's not into metal as I am, so it's a different take on what music should sound like. So if she
Yeah.
likes it, I know it's good, and if she says something is not good, I should really pay attention to it. So I was like,
Wow.
honey, since you are such a big part of everything I do in music, the G and J, so it's the GJ, and the name also has a funny pun connotation to it because in Portuguese the word DJ spoken by someone who does not speak English sounds like GJ. So
Oh
it has a
Oh
double
my
meaning.
wow.
gosh. So it has like a double meaning. That
Wow,
is
man, that's
Yeah.
so
so awesome.
so cool. I was going to ask you what like the GJ stands for cuz I know your first name starts with a G, so I just assumed, but that is
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
cool.
So
Oh
yeah,
my
there's a
god.
lot going on. We're finally gonna be moving into our house, and then my studio is gonna be built, and hopefully I will not have to be on this very tiny space with this curtain back here that might fall during the stream because my dog is back there just pulling on it.
Fair warning to
Uh,
everyone.
yeah,
Puppy
just a
madness.
nice warning. but lots of things happening, and I am actually restraining myself from getting more projects going because I don't want to be stuck working in this little cubicle that I am right now. I want to have a studio to properly listen to what I'm recording, because right now,
Yeah.
99% of everything I'm recording, it's going through this and not
Oh
through the
wow.
monitor
Oh
speakers that I have
wow.
here, because I live on the third floor of a condo, so I can't really just turn up the volume at any time. And
Yeah.
mixing with these, it's really tough. It's really tough because you got to mix here and then you take it out to the car and then you listen there and then you come
Yes.
back and you listen to it here, and it's just, ugh, I just need monitors.
Dude, it's
So,
very impressive for
So
for how
impressive.
clear your mixes are.
You would never know.
That's awesome,
You
man.
would never know. How long
no,
does it
thank
usually
you.
take you to mix, like with that process, like to like fine
Oof,
tune
duh,
something you're working
that's a
on?
long time. Usually the mixes take from a week to a month, depending on what. Just the mixing.
Yeah.
After everything is recorded, set,
Yeah.
automated, everything. Just the mixing process and the mastering is a week to a month, depending on how many tracks there are. Because
Okay.
mixing on earbuds is a really tough process. But when you have to do something that is way tougher, you actually learn a lot more, because
Yeah.
I train my ears to listen to specific frequencies that are not available, that I can't listen to on a monitor, and I have to pay attention to different things and I have to try out different things. So I actually learn a lot more from having to do the hard way.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Wow.
mean, once you get onto some actual monitors, it'll probably be a breeze for you. But
Oh
that's
my
I hope
gosh.
so.
impressive, dude.
Yeah, and you're gonna be wanting to like go right out to your car. You're like, wait a minute, I don't have to do that. You're not gonna have that
Hopefully.
urge to jump out there anymore. Now, the space that you create in, is that where you work as well? That's
Yeah,
currently where you're
yeah.
working too.
It's actually the only space in my apartment where there is any kind of uh, computer computer related activity going on. So everything is
Okay.
here, and it's literally from right here. I'm touching the wall to this. So this is
Oh
all I
man.
have to this. So back there is the living room already, and then you have the kitchen, because it's a very tiny apartment.
Yeah.
We just needed something to crash for maybe a year or a year and a half until our house was getting done. So we didn't really plan any of this. And to be honest, I wasn't planning on making a bunch of music and having all these projects going on right now. So I didn't really know that I was going to need more space and good sound or anything. I just thought I was going to stick to my to making music on my iPad on my iPhone. But then turned
Wow.
out I got an iMac, and now I need room for an interface for a keyboard and speaker monitors, and this is just not the place right here.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
you're growing. So I guess that brings me to like how did all this get started? We kind of got into it. How did all this get started? How'd you get started with music? What brought you to this part of your journey now? Let's take us through the whole spiel.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Well, I've always been into music since I was a little kid. I don't know, maybe 13, 14. You know, the usual, you just pick up the guitar, you like some sounds, and then you play around with instruments and you just bang on the drums, which was always fun. But I got into listening to music and wanting to play music during middle school. Um, I came to the US in 2000, and I stayed here in the US until 2002, and then I went back to Brazil. So during those 2 years, I went to middle school and then 1 year of high school. And that's when I came across music, right? That's when
Oh
I
man.
started really listening to music, being passionate about bands, and wanting to make music myself. I got started with Korn, new metal. Korn was the thing for me. I
Yes.
remember when I was a skateboarder back in Brazil, and all the grown-up kids were talking about Korn as we were skateboarding. I was just like literally sitting on my board, and everyone else was talking about Korn, Korn this, Korn that, Korn this, Korn that. I was like, what the hell is Korn, right?
Yeah.
And then years later, when I'm in the US already, I'm going through some IRC chat messages. Don't know if you guys are familiar with it. MIRC, Merc.
I think that's like the same as
It
like
was a very
AIM,
Yeah.
like AOL Instant
Okay.
Messenger,
Yo, the
probably.
chat
yeah,
room,
yeah. It
old
was
Yeah,
school,
like
yeah.
old
man.
school internet chatting, and then I saw
Yeah.
someone sharing like, "Oh, I'm listening to Korn." I was like, "Oh, there's this name again with a K. What is Korn?" So I went to Arizlit or Kazaa. Don't remember back in the day
Yes.
what
Oh my
Yes.
what it
gosh,
was.
Kazaa.
Kazaa.
Yes.
And I downloaded Korn. The song was "Let's Get This Party Started," and when I heard the first guitar strumming, I was like, "Whoa, this is awesome!" And from then on, It was just Korn, Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, Mudvayne, and then Slipknot, and then Slipknot opened up all the metal genre, and then
Yes.
it just went crazy. And then when I went back to Brazil, and I was like, hey guys, do you guys know about this Korn and Slipknot and all these bands and kind of stuff? And they were like, yeah, we actually like it too. Let's make a band. And then we made a cover band. We had a new metal cover band. We had a couple of original songs, but mostly covers of System of a Down and Korn. Um, and I was the bass player. And but I was never really serious about making music. It was just fun to play music and to learn everything.
Mhm.
But it was in 2016 when I actually moved to the US. My wife and I, we moved to the US, and I got an iPhone, and I discovered synthwave. And somebody pointed
Okay.
out that you can actually make the synthwave sounds inside GarageBand on my phone. I was like, wait, you can make music
Like
on
a
your
genius.
phone? I was like, okay, now I'm into music. And GarageBand got me started into making music. In fact, the album 16 Beats of Fury,
Mhm.
everything was done on my phone. I
Wow.
Oh,
the
really?
videos that I put on YouTube, there's me actually playing stuff on my
Yeah.
iPad, but
Yeah.
that was just for show and for the clip.
Oh
Okay.
wow. So
But
you actually
the
made it
actual
on your
music is,
phone.
yeah, everything on my iPhone. It's
That's
really
so
tough
cool.
to do
Damn, dude. How
this
the hell are you drumming on
and
that,
make
dude?
music.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, anybody listening right now, if you have not had the chance to check out GJ's album 16 Bits of Fury, please do yourself a favor. Go
Oh hell yeah.
find him through that link right there. Find his Bandcamp. It's on his Bandcamp. It is just pure 16-bit just heaven. It's so cool. That blows my mind. I didn't know that before that you made that all on your iPhone. That's crazy.
Yeah. Because I mean, one of the reasons why I decided to like really make music on my phone, it's because the genre itself, synthwave and chiptunes is all those sounds, you can easily make them with high quality on your iPhone. Easily,
Mhm.
right? You don't
Wow.
need super fancy DAWs, you don't need super fancy analog synths to make those sounds, right? So the phone was way more than enough for me to make that album. And then I just got samples from different video games, just put them all in there, just mixed it all inside GarageBand itself, and it came out pretty cool. Yeah.
It's really cool. Now,
Damn. Wait, you did the mixing and everything in your phone too?
It's GarageBand. It's like nothing but
Damn,
GarageBand.
bro.
Yeah.
that's
I try to prove to the world that you can make something sound decent inside GarageBand on your iPhone.
Damn,
you
you
did
hear
it.
that, everybody? I hope everybody's paying attention because that just goes to show that you don't need nothing fancy. If you got a song in you, you got a song in your heart, you can get it out no matter what. Man, that's awesome.
That is
That's
so cool.
awesome.
How long did it take to make the album on your phone?
Oh yeah, that took me a while. That was probably from 2016 to 2018, 2 years maybe,
Wow.
to make everything. Because I was not planning on making an album at all. I just made one song, and the first song I ever made was "Weak Pathetic Fool."
So good.
And it sounded really cool. I posted on a group that I was part of on Facebook, and everybody loved it. And it was like, let me make another one. And then I made Tiger RoboCop, and then people liked it even more. I was like, you know what? Now it's time for me to make an album. So I made an album, and the whole process took me a while because once all the songs were done and I was ready to put it out there, I was finally faced with mixing issues and mastering issues because the songs were not leveled or anything. I was like, oh, so I have to learn that now. So I went on to YouTube and learned everything I could on mixing and mastering, and to get all those I think it's 5 or 6 songs to sound kind of the
Mhm.
same, and then just put the album out there.
That's
Wow.
awesome, man.
That is really, really
awesome.
cool. And I have so much more of an appreciation now for that album because I already like loved it so much, especially in contrast to some of the other music you come out with and the heavier stuff. Because to me, like a lot of the stuff on 16 Bits of Fury, it's like your heavy influences are transposed into that
100%.
chip tune realm, and it's just the coolest thing. Like they still feel heavy. They still, they still have that like like that's why it's just so cool. I had no idea it was done on the phone. Like that is the
Yeah,
coolest thing
well,
ever.
I grew up in the town that I grew up back in Brazil. It was a very small town. In the 90s, nobody really had video games. There was one kid in the whole street that had a Super Nintendo, and all the kids would gather and go to his house to watch him play, and he would play Mortal Kombat nonstop, Mortal Kombat 2 and 3, and then 3 Ultimate. and those games have very good soundtracks. Mortal
Hell
Kombat 3
yeah.
Oh my
specifically has
God, yeah.
very heavy, meaty drum lines, and obviously hearing that, I was like, yeah, that's awesome. Once I finally got my own Super Nintendo, the local video store only had about this many games available, right? So there
Yeah.
was basically all the names of games and the videos from the video clip of Weak Pathetic Fool are the games
Mm.
that I played because they were the only ones available. So
Wow.
Donkey Kong 1, 2, 3, Super Mario, Sunset Rider, Mega Man, and
Yes.
Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. Those were basically, oh, and Killer Instinct. Those were basically the only games I had available. So those OSTs, those soundtracks are just embedded in my mind.
Hell
And
yeah.
Because you
once I
played them
got
so
into
much.
metal, I was like, ooh, Mega Man was very metal in chiptune. Let me try to make something like that.
Oh,
That was a
that's
big
so
influence.
so cool.
I'm sorry, I'll step away and go get the dog real
Our
quick.
dog had to go out.
Sure.
He's got to go get him. So going to that, like, what other influences do you have in your music outside of like other music? Like, is it like more video game stuff, movie stuff? Like, what stuff do you pull from?
Yeah, well, I have had different phases of music throughout my life. So when I started listening to music for reals, it was just straight new metal. That was everything I would listen to.
Hmm.
Slipknot opened up the door for heavier stuff for me,
Yes.
and then it was all metalcore for maybe 2 years straight. And then I had a metalcore band, and everything that didn't sound metalcore-ish was not good music for me. Uh, then I went to university. I opened up my mind, met different people, and I really got into classical music, like a
Okay.
lot, like very very much into classical music.
Oh wow.
Most of the works of Johann Sebastian Bach,
Hmm.
the Trinity, Bach, Mozart, and Beethoven,
Hmm.
Chopin, Vivaldi. All those guys, I listened to them straight for like I basically forgot about metal and was listening everything classical music related on my iPod Nano for the remainder of my university years. Right, it was just all I listened to, and then after that, when I got into metal again, it wasn't really a big transition or a leap because people who enjoy metal usually enjoy classical music and vice
Yeah.
versa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of patterns are there, the intensity, the morbid themes of many of the pieces,
Mm.
the progressions. So a
Oh
lot of
wow.
modern metal and classical heavy metal is based on classical music. So it wasn't a
Hmm.
big transition for me. But once I got back into listening to metal, having listened to all of that classical music and try to understand, what a fugue is and how Bach thought of his pieces, it gave me a much deeper appreciation for music, way deeper appreciation, especially for metal genres that I thought were metal back then. Because anything that sounded like Iron Maiden for me was crap. Like, nah, that's not metal. That's opera
Yeah.
with a guitar. That's terrible. But then once I got back into metal, having listened to all the classical stuff, I was like, yeah, no, those guys know what they're doing.
Well, and that's like what you're describing is part of like that natural transition and that progression of your like musical palette and your ears just maturing. You know,
Sure.
you hear one thing, but then once you like start to understand music and you start to like open yourself up to other things, your tastes mature, your tastes refine a little bit, and you can like go back and have that appreciation for some other stuff. Because I mean, I go back to some stuff from when I was younger, and I'm like, wow, this is so much better than I remembered.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you discount it wasn't heavy enough, it wasn't brutal enough, it didn't hit hard enough, didn't have enough bass,
There
and
wasn't enough screams.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
got people in the
true.
chat agreeing with you too, man. And yeah, like power metal to me was nowadays I look at it as like the perfect transition between classical and metal. You know what I mean? Because it's very
Hmm.
much like we were saying. It involves that same movement and that those progressiveness. But
Yeah.
dude, back in the day, I was very much like, "What is this? It's too much.
This is
Why are
horrible.
they
Yeah.
all trying to be
Yeah, what
fancy? What's up with the weird fans blowing their hair in the wind? Like it's too much for me."
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
But
yeah.
it's
But
it's wild.
the one thing that was very glad, I just got lucky for having been the generation of that grew up listening to new metal, because the thing about new metal specifically for me, is that it's such a varied genre. It's such an open genre with so many influences that no one band sounds like the other, yet they're
It's
all
true.
new metal. Like Korn doesn't sound like Slipknot. System of a Down does not sound like Rage Against the Machine, and they do not sound like Linkin Park, but they are all somehow new metal. So all those different sounds, I was exposed to all those different sounds. So from the Deftones side, all the electronic ambient, and from the Korn side, all the funky bass slapping kind of sound. Slipknot with the blast beats, and Rage Against the Machine with the rap and hip hop, and System of a Down with all those crazy exotic scales that I never heard
Oh
in my
my
life, and
god.
those Oriental kind of sounds that were not part of my growing up and in my culture. So I'm glad that I got exposed to all of those different sounds within the new metal family, because later when I matured my taste in music, I remembered all of those sounds, and I went after the genres that were more like those sounds, and it just grew my taste and appreciation for music in general, rather than just growing up with one sound your whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, man.
Well, and it's crazy. Like you don't even really think about it, but new metal really is. It's shit on, but the way you just put it is perfect. It has such a range. Like you're saying, no two bands sounded the same. It's like we really, when we were
Yeah.
younger, we came up at like a really exciting and cool time for metal
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
that
I
like
would
doesn't
not
get
have
enough
gotten into metal if
appreciation.
it weren't for Rammstein and Static X Machine.
That's hell
Ah,
yeah.
I
It's
mean,
like,
I
Rammstein.
wouldn't have not gotten into electronic music if it weren't for them.
same here, man. Same here. Static X is probably one of my top 2 or 3 favorite bands, and the main reason why I got into all of this. And it's wild. Like yeah, we grew up in such a time where you have all these different influences. You had new metal, you had industrial, you had people just being evil, but they all called it new metal. It was just
Yeah.
cool. It was just
Yeah,
music.
and they were
And
all
like
playing in one show, Ozfest.
yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, and
Ozfest.
it's cool, man. We can try to create that little world again here on Taste of the Underground, and it's awesome. We got all these cool people
Yeah,
to
it's
do
cool.
that.
Well,
All
it's like
these different types of genres, and it's just good music, man. I definitely see all of these influences in your music, dude. Like for sure, because you have such range, and even just in just
Thank you.
one song. Like just one of your songs can vary from super heavy and intricate to like crazy
And, like, melodic.
experimental, then to melodic, then to electronic and like synthwave and synthy, and then back to the heavy. It's so cool, man. It's really really cool how you've taken all this stuff that has influenced you and combined it into your own sound.
No, thank you, man. Thank you. That's great to hear.
how
Good to
did
know that
like
people enjoy the madness.
yeah, it's one of
Yeah.
the best things. It's one of like the things that I use as like a term of endearment for a lot of like the stuff that I hear on this channel, and like a lot of like new like up and coming like underground synth artists. It's like controlled chaos.
Yes.
Like it's chaos with a purpose. It's refined, and it's in a small and safe environment, but you create a storyline with it, with the chaos, and it's really really cool. And like you're one of the best people at doing that in my
Thank you.
opinion. It's like perfect controlled chaos. But how did you get to the point where like, okay, so you came up listening to new metal was such an influence in your life. Where did the dance music and the synth part come in? Like how did that start
Mm.
for you?
Yeah, it's funny because I can't really pinpoint a time when I just flipped and was like, oh, dance music, EDM is awesome. But it was because of two things. It was because of synthwave and Doom 2016, the game, right? So I
Right.
discovered those two things around the same time. I had just bought a PlayStation 4, and I was inside a GameStop, and I overheard a very heavy EDM track playing in the background, and all of a sudden a super low heavy guitar kicks in. I was like, whoa, what is that song? And the guy said, oh, that's the soundtrack for Doom 2016. I was like, I'm buying that game. So
Me
I
too.
got the game just because of the music,
Hell
and
yeah.
and the music of Doom was such a different take on electronic music, something that I had never heard before, and that turned me on to the sounds of electronic music. And at the same
Okay.
time, I don't know how, I think I found a video on YouTube of synthwave, and oh yes, I know it was that very was that video playlist on YouTube where there's a spaceship dashboard just flying into the distance. And it's one of the most famous playlists of synthwave on YouTube. And I
Okay.
was trying to study or
Yeah, that
something,
one
and
I've
then I put
probably
that in
heard.
the background, and I just loved the vibe and how it helped me focus. So I started listening to that YouTube playlist so many times that I just started loving the synth sounds. So synthwave and Doom 2016 just came during the same time, and helped me get a huge appreciation for EDM. And that's when I got an iPhone, and that's when people showed me GarageBand, and was like, oh,
Yeah.
let me try to make those sounds on my phone. And that's when I transitioned from listening mostly to metal
Hmm.
to listen to more EDM, because not only I could listen to it, I could make it. So I was
Hell
like,
yeah.
put metal on break, learn EDM.
Wow,
That's
wow.
awesome.
So is that like kind of your approach with what you do? Like you're trying to make like what you want to hear, like the music that you want out there, like the two worlds coming together. Is that kind of how you approach it?
Yeah, yeah. Basically, right now, I'm always caught in between making music I really want to listen to and making music that other people may want to listen to as well. Because if I just make music that I want to listen to, they're going to be 5 to 10 minute songs that are just drowny and full of weird stuff that I'm really going to enjoy it, but it's not going to help me grow as a songwriter and
Okay.
connect with people and what they also want to listen to. It's kind of, it would be more of a selfish pleasure, just like what I want to hear. But as I want to become an artist, I have to try to listen to what people listen to and try to incorporate and evolve what I make to what's out there as well.
Hmm.
So right now I am making, under the DJ, I have three genres of music that I'm making, and my hope is that I can, once I get really good at these genres, I can combine them into one song, one sound that will be my characteristic sound. But I'm doing chiptune, I'm doing synthwave, and I'm doing doom-inspired metal tracks. And
Nice.
I have tried to cross over in a couple of songs, and I've done it, but it's really tough. Once I finished 16 Beats of Fury, I went to synthwave, and I did Dr. Osiris,
Hmm.
and then I went back to chiptune, got a couple of things I learned, and put inside Dr. Osiris.
Oh
And then I
wow.
went to Doom Eternal. I did all of that, and then I went back to synthwave and chiptune, and got a little bit of those two and put it inside the Doom Eternal
Oh, that's so
material
cool.
that I'm making. So I'm always like going back to what I have done, to the sounds I have made, and I have liked them. I try to put them into the next thing that I'm trying to come up with, and eventually, I want to have all of that, all of those sounds mixed with classical music. Once I'm able to do that, that will
Wow.
be the GJ sound. But it's a long road till then, because it's really hard to mix all of those and make them sound coherent. It's really easy just to play them all together, and it sounds like,
Sure.
oh, why is there a violin in there? But to make it sound like it belongs in the mix, it's
Yeah, it
it's
makes
really tough.
sense. Yeah. That's really really ambitious.
Hell
Like
yeah.
thrown in
Yeah.
the classical element as well. Like when you think about like incorporating classical music into it, are you thinking about it like from like a cinematic perspective or like just a more traditional classical approach?
Hmm. Uh, yeah, well, good question. One of this, one of the songs we're gonna go through later is my second project, which is the symphonic death metal project.
Hmm.
And basically, what I want to do with the DJ is incorporate that sound into my electronic
Ah.
down tune guitar sound. It's very hard because it's basically symphonic death metal. So just think of a death metal song. Just take a Cannibal Corpse song. Just replace all guitars and all bass for everything for orchestral
Okay.
instrumentation,
Nice.
and that's what I want to do. I think that that's exactly what Flesh God Apocalypse does. If you guys don't know this band,
Oh
Flesh God
yes,
No,
Apocalypse,
they're
it's an
yes.
Italian
amazing.
symphonic death metal
Hmm.
band. They are insane. They are just absolutely insane. And what they do with combining classical music and death metal is what I want to do with classical music and heavy EDM plus chiptune plus synthwave.
That's awesome.
It's it's like having the structure of a classical song, but not having it as long as a classical piece,
Hmm.
Hmm.
but at the same time being bouncy, at the same time having guitars. I mean, it's really ambitious. I know it's gonna take me time to get there, but I kind of have mapped out the way I wanna go through to get there.
That's awesome, man.
That's so cool.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I know for me, I work so much better when I have a goal in mind. So it's so cool that you got that. You know what I mean? It's always something to work towards and just to keep edging at and getting
Yeah,
there,
and it
dude.
doesn't have to be like overnight, like
Yeah.
you have a drastic sound. It's like you were saying, it's like each song that you do, just incorporate a new element that you've learned, like a new technique you've learned, and over time like get comfortable with what you're doing. I mean, I think it's totally achievable, and I think it's badass that you have such a goal in mind. Like it's just so cool because that's one of the things that makes this kind of music so exciting because it's just like the Wild West. There's no rules. You can do whatever, and we say all the time like the future is genreless. There is no
Yeah, yeah,
genres in the
definitely.
future.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
and like that's like the epitome of it, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
you're moving music forward.
Yeah.
You're pushing the boundaries, and that's awesome, man. And it's exciting to see. I'm definitely down for the ride, man. To
Oh
see
yeah, we're
how
gonna
this
be paying very
unfolds.
close attention because we
Cool.
absolutely love everything you do. But yeah, I mean we can
Well, yeah, I just had a question.
uh,
So you touched a little bit on having another project. So we
Yeah.
know the project we know is the GJ. What
Yeah.
other projects do you have? Could you let us know a little bit
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, it's a second project. It's my symphonic death metal and all things metal project. I tried making it under the GJ, but it would be just way too random
Okay.
to have everything under one artist at this moment, because you guys know, as you try to grow a fan base, as you try to grow music with listeners, if people are kind of following you for one sound and then every week you throw a different sound, they tend to just tune off because it's too random. So
Yeah.
I decided to split the projects and make the GJ the more electronic stuff and all these three genres that are kind of in the same family. And over here I have the second project. Is I'm not sure the correct pronunciation because it's a Greek word, but it's Homoiousios.
Okay.
I chose this term because it means of a similar substance, of a similar kind, and it's an ancient Christian heresy. Um, little trivia: when I was younger, I really wanted to become a theologian
Oh
and
wow.
an expert on religious studies. So I read a bunch of theology and stuff, and this was one of the terms that stuck to me because I thought it was really interesting. There was a huge debate back in ancient times when the Christians were debating whether Jesus was of the same nature as the Father or he was of a different but similar nature of the Father. And a lot of people got killed over that. And I was like, hey, what a great term, of a similar substance, because that was deemed a heresy. So you cannot
Huh.
say that the official doctrine is Jesus is of a similar substance, but he's of the same substance. But I
wow.
digress. So I took that term,
Wow.
homoousios, because I wanted to make not songs in the metal genre, but there were not just one genre, but there were many genres of a similar substance. So there's black metal, there's death metal, there's symphonic, epic, new metal, industrial metal. So it's a metal project that embraces lots of different genres and has lots of different people making recording vocals for me because I can't sing.
Oh wow, that's
I
awesome.
I I cannot sing. I tried, cannot. But as of now, the project has 17 tracks. They're basically all done, all the demos. I keep releasing just teasers of the demos. And I have reached out to random people I meet on the internet and find on metal vocalist this, metal vocalist that groups of Facebook.
Mm.
And I've sent the tracks out to them, and they're making killer music, and they're making in different languages. There's one
Oh
song that is
wow.
sung in three languages. It's Spanish, Portuguese, and English at the same time. Another one is in
Oh,
Greek.
that's
What?
The other one is in German, and then there's a bunch in English, and then there's one in Italian and Latin that a girl
Wow.
is
that's
doing,
cool.
and then there's operatic vocals. It's just I was able to meet so many very talented musicians that are doing vocals for this EP that is it's just crazy, and they're from all over the world, right? So I'm trying to get as many influences in different metal genres and making these tracks and sending them out for vocals. Oh, and even Devbags is doing vocals in one of those.
Oh, that's
Oh,
awesome,
that's
man. Hell
awesome.
yeah.
We love our dev bags.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
so if everything goes right, I will be able to release the full track list, the 17 songs by April 2022. That's what I'm planning. It's
Nice.
taking a lot of time because I'm mixing, just regular six-string guitar with eight string with
Oh
a
wow.
bunch of orchestration and layers of drums and different people singing on the same track. So it's a lot of work. It's a headache every now and then, but it's I couldn't be more excited to work on this because I get to apply all that metal love and classical love that I have and put into this one project.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool, dude.
Yeah, and it
I
sounds
gotta
like,
check this out.
yeah, yeah,
I gotta
yeah.
check this out.
Absolutely. That sounds like a really cool project. One, it just sounds like you know, the perfect like marriage of what you're trying to go for. Like bring that orchestral element in. It's so cool. That now you said the one track has three different languages. Is that just one singer that's singing
Uh, n-
in three different
no,
languages?
it's two singers, and
Okay.
it's actually the track that you guys are gonna play real soon. It's the
Oh
Lilium
wow.
track that I submitted for you guys. It's sung. It
So
starts
stay
in
tuned, guys.
Spanish, and then it goes to Portuguese, and then it goes back to English, and then it finishes in Portuguese as well. So, and it's
Wow.
all the same theme. It's like different people talking to each other in different languages with lots of different mixes of genres. Mostly that song is death metal, slam metal, and orchestral, all
Oh,
into one. So I
awesome.
was like, what a perfect way of blending languages, cultures, countries. Because the guy is from Mexico, the woman is from Portugal, I'm from Brazil, but I live in Texas. So it's all these different
Everyone's a
things coming
mix.
together to make a dope song.
Oh
That's
wow,
awesome,
wow!
man.
And everyone in the chat while you're explaining, they're like, "Ooh, I
Everybody's
can't
just
wait to
getting
hear
hyped.
this.
Yeah, dude.
I
The
can't wait to hear
excitement is
this."
building, man. It's just really cool, and that's it's so cool that you were able to get all these different people to help come together and create something really cool like that. I mean, I love that's one thing I love the most about this community is the fact that we've met so many amazingly talented people, and we've been able to collaborate with and help. They help grow what we do, and they help me learn so much more about music and about applying this stuff, about mixing, about everything. It's really fun when you're able to do that. So it's exciting that you're able to find these people to help bring your vision to life.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
so
I mean,
so
I,
cool.
I reached out to Unheard Sirens, and they've agreed to make a metal version of one of their songs.
Hell
So I've
yeah.
already told them that I'm gonna reach out back to them once I have moved into the house, have my studio, and everything is ready to go. Then I'll reach back out to them, and we're hopefully gonna make an orchestral metal version of one of their last songs they played on your stream. Don't remember the name now.
I think it was Renegades of the Portal, right?
I guess so. It was yeah, it was the one
Or
where they
We
were
Are the
in an open
Renegades.
field running on a train track.
Yeah, we are. I think it was We Are the Renegades because I saw those seeds like blooming in the chat. You're like, ooh, this would be great for some, and then they're like, ooh, that would be cool. I'm like, oh yes, please happen.
Oh, we're gonna make
Please
it happen
happen.
for sure.
Yes, yes, that is so cool. That is so so cool.
Crossing more boundaries.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can get into these tracks
Yeah.
that you've sent in to us. I know everyone's very anxious to one hear that song that you were talking about, but just hear some of your music. And now,
Cool.
before we get into the tracks, why did you pick
Yeah.
these four specifically for tonight?
Yeah. One was I think they represent mostly the spectrum of genres that I'm trying to cover and the two projects that I'm trying to put out, and they are basically an epitome of the sounds that eventually will all come together in one
Nice.
cohesive sound for the DJ. So that's why I chose these four. There's an EDM dance track. There's Doom Eternal, and then there's Doom Eternal mixed with black metal, and
Yes.
then there's the symphonic black death metal. So I'm trying to like
Okay.
have the different things that I'm having. These four songs kind of represents the spectrum of the sounds that I'm trying to make.
Perfect.
Nice.
So for everyone watching, we're gonna get into these tracks. We're gonna play each track and then give our friend GJ an opportunity to kind of talk about it. The process behind it, or whatever cool little factoids you want to give us about the song, so that we can get a little bit into your brain and see how these songs came to be. Oh, and it caught my
Cool.
eye. We have an imposter in the chat. We have the JG in the chat.
The what?
There's a JG in the chat. I think it's a friend of yours, but it just caught my eye. I'm like, wait a minute, there's an imposter. So yeah, we're gonna get into these tracks here.
All right, let's do this, man.
All right, all right. Which one will go first?
All right, we are gonna go into. Oh, first one up is "Dancing with Demons."
Cool.
All righty, all right,
Here we
everybody.
go.
This is "Dancing with Demons" by the GJ.
Cool.
Here we go. Yeah, it's cold back so good. I know, it's so fun. Ah, cool fade out too. Wow. Oh, that was fun. That song was fun as hell. That one's awesome. So tell us a little bit about that one and like how you created it, or what the process was with making it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that specific song it's funny because its reason for being is me having bought an app for saxophone, and I couldn't justify having that app, so I was like, I gotta make a song for it now. Because it was just it was one of those purchases
Wow.
that you do at night just because the app is on a deal, and I think I got it for like $4, and I thought it sounded cool, but then I didn't know what to do with it. Then I was like, you know what, now I need a song that will justify me having bought this saxophone app. And so I started with the solo, made that whole sax solo there, and then grew the song on the two ends from there.
Wow.
Wow, dude.
Yeah, and I used the same template of sounds that I had used in Dr. Osiris.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
got the same drum beat and the same distorted bass sound.
Nice.
Made a beat, sidechain compression and all, and then all of a
Hmm.
sudden I was like, hey, I like this riff very much. I think it will fit well. And then worked in the sax solo, and at that point I was like, you know what? Let me do some bass slapping as well. So
Yes.
Man, that you brought
because
the
it had
funk.
that funky vibe, right? It had that
Yeah.
fun
Yep.
that funky bass drum beat. So like, it will do well to have a bass slapping part. So I did that. It turned out fine. I was able to mix it in a way that it kind of sounds like in the same family as Dr. Osiris and the other
Mhm.
EDM songs I have. And I was like, great, that's my song now. That's an official the GJ song.
That's so
It's
great.
so
Well, I
awesome,
love how
man.
it just started with a sax plug-in.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy. Dude, like you can definitely hear the bass player in all of it, man. I love it, dude, because you
Yeah, it's so
always get
funky.
that pump, dude. Like everything just like always pounds so nicely, and the transition between those like the heavier synthier bass to the funk bass was so well done, so sick, dude. I love it. I
Thank
love
you.
it.
That was
Yeah, I
awesome.
love it when you
Yeah,
bring the live elements into it. It's really awesome, man.
Yeah, yeah. And it's
like
seamless.
90% of the music I make starts in the rhythm section, but not
Okay.
exactly in the drums, but mostly in the bass that I try to play as if I were a drummer. I got into music through the wrong instrument actually because I wanted to be a drummer, but then I bought a bass because in middle school when I didn't speak proper English, somebody told me to pay attention to the bass kick of Slipknot. Right? They came up with the song. It was "My Plague" from the
Mhm.
Resident Evil soundtrack,
Hell
Oh
the
yeah,
movie,
yes.
yeah.
right?
Yep.
And so he hands me the earbuds and he's like, "Dude, pay attention to this bass kick." Right? He said bass kick, but all I heard was bass, right? And then he wanted me to pay attention to the real fast speed, and he's like, "Oh, dude,
Mhm.
listen to those clickety sounds. That's awesome. That's the bass kick." I was like, "Oh, that's bass. Okay, let me go to Sam Ash and buy a bass because I want to make that sound." Right? So I bought a bass, went
Wow.
home, plugged it in, and it sounded nothing like that.
Like the.
And so I was stuck with the bass. So I learned how to play a bass then. But I always wanted to be the drummer because I was always more into the rhythmic session. But thankfully, Korn was there to save me because when Korn plays a bass line, they always play in a percussive way. So
Mhm.
I started playing the bass in a more percussive way, and those were my formative making music years, right? Just playing very percussive elements in music. So whenever I approach a song in whatever genre, I approach it from a more rhythmic perspective.
Nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the main synth line for that song we just heard, I started actually on the drum beat, right? I actually have pulled up here my DAW, and I want to show you exactly how I thought about the process of making
Hell yeah.
Okay.
that song,
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's
and
do it.
basically
Oh yeah.
every other song I ever make. That's basically the process. So tell me if you guys can hear this.
Yep.
You can hear that, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So like I try to start with a beat. For example, just a simple drum beat like, right? So you take that simple
Mhm.
rhythmic section, and instead of playing it on the drum line, you just play that on the bass line, and it would come up to something like,
Oh wow.
Okay.
Woo.
right?
Evil.
Oh, I love that
Evil,
sound. That's
right?
such
Evil,
a
So
good
dude.
that
sound.
that's a drum line played on the
On the
keyboard as if
freaking
I were
keys.
playing finger drumming, right? So I
That's
have
ingenious.
the same mapping as my drums, the kick and the snare. I just hit different keys on a synth, and it gives you that very syncopated sound. So once you record that and then you layer that with the drums and electronic drums, and then you put in an 8-string guitar and the bass and you mix it all together, it sounds huge, but it's actually all one very simple pattern of a drum beat that you transform it into sounds.
Wow,
Wow.
man.
But that's what also gives your music that funk.
That
Because
bounce.
yeah, because everything has a nice bounce. Everything bounces together nicely and bounces off of each other nicely. Every even the metal, the heavy stuff has like a funk like
It's got that bass. It's got that
yeah.
roots in the rhythm, so it's gonna
Yeah.
make you
Yeah.
move no matter what, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Wow, that's
I
ingenious.
couldn't have turned out any other way having been a Brazilian. Rhythm in Brazilian music is everything, and then you can obviously see that in all the metal music that comes from Brazil, how very strong it is in the drum and rhythmic session. You have
Yep.
the Sepultura roots, you have Chaos AD, you have the newer bands like Project 46, and you have a very big new metal scene in Brazil as well. Everything is mostly rhythmic. So because of samba and all the music element, cultural music we have in Brazil, everything is very tribal, very drummy,
Mm.
very percussion driven. So I couldn't have turned out any other way.
That's so cool, man. It's really cool to be able to bring like your roots into your
Yeah,
music, man. That's
yeah.
so awesome.
Even if it was like a
Yeah.
subconscious thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Subconsciously.
so cool. That's so cool. And that's such an ingenious technique. Like there's people in the chat that are just like, "Oh my god, like
Like,
you're blowing their minds right now because you wouldn't normally think to take one totally different element, like a percussive element, and turn it into a lead line or a guitar riff or a bass line. You know, you tend to
Yeah,
compartmentalize and think of them as totally different sections, so
yeah,
that
yeah,
the way you broke that down to make it accessible for yourself is just it's ingenious, and that's so cool. That's so cool.
yeah. That's I think that's the beauty of all bass players everywhere, because we're not melody, we're not rhythm, we're right there in between the two. We're gluing rhythm and melody. So whenever you have bass players that stand out, you can clearly see that they're doing both. Like look at Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers. He's basically thumping, that's the kick drum, and the popping is the snare drum. And then within and with his left hand, he's doing all
he's
the
playing on
melodies.
the
So
melody.
you got
Wow.
Yep.
that drum beat going, and you have the melody going, right? You have the
Wow.
same thing with Korn. You have the same thing with Mudvayne, with Suicidal Tendencies, with all the good funky bass players and whatever funky metal genre there's out there. You can see this happening. The bass player is doing both things. He's doing drum beats and he's doing melodies as well. So that's the
Yep.
beauty of
Yep.
uh, being a bass player. I love bass players all around the world because
Yeah.
that's where we shine.
My
Yes.
man Colpex in the chat said something beautiful here. He said everybody listens to the guitar, but they dance to the bass.
That's
And
right.
that's the
So
truth,
true.
And
man.
very important thing that I learned in mixing. If your bass doesn't sound good, your guitar doesn't matter how good it sounds like
Sounds
shit.
like
It
trash.
does not matter how good your guitar tone is. If your
Yep.
bass tone and if your bass playing is not up to par, your guitar sound will suffer drastically from that. I have recently downloaded a couple of stems, separated stems from a Pantera song.
Oh
And
wow.
when I isolated the guitar track, wow, it sounds horrible on its own. I know people will kill me over that, but Dimebag's tone on its own
It's not good.
is very mid. It's like
Yep.
very scoops to mid, and it kind of hurts your
It's
earbuds, and
grating.
it's not it's not polished or anything. It's super dirty, right? But then the bass tone is super well defined, and then when you put them together, it sounds like heaven. So the bass is one of the keys to a very good guitar tone.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. It's
And
that heartbeat. It's
dance
that
tracks
backbone.
too. That's that anchor. It's the glue that holds everything together. It's the duct tape of dance music. It
Yep,
holds
definitely.
everything together. Absolutely. Well, let's
Let's get
dive
into
into
another
another
one
one
of
of
the
your tracks
songs.
here, because just hearing your process just makes it that much more exciting to just hear more of what you make with it.
All right, this next one we got is BFG 3000. All right, guys, let's get into it.
Oh, this is a good one.
There's that tone. I love it.
Mm.
Oh, hey, GJ's amazing wife.
The other half
The
of
J to his G. Yeah, this is good. Shit, me and the dog are the only ones here. So evil. It's just not.
Bass.
Just gets nastier and nastier. Oh my god, it's so good. Damn.
Man.
I love that one.
Another banger.
Oh, I love that one so much. It's like everything I love about everything Doom. It's just so perfect.
For real.
Ugh.
Like the way that you get your tone, man, it's incredible. It's incredible, dude.
So
Like
good.
everything
Oh,
sits
thanks.
so well. Like the bass and the guitar sit so well together, man. That's one thing I always about all your songs that impresses me so much, dude. Everything sits so well and has that punch. You never lose that like heaviness. Like every breakdown,
Oh, thank you.
every like transition into a different time signature, you
Yep.
never lose it. It never muddies out or anything. Nothing ever competes.
Yeah,
It's
the
fucking
momentum
awesome.
keeps going. Tell us about that one. That one was a collab with another awesome member of the Outworld community, the Dev Bags. Tell us
Yeah.
about that one.
Yeah, for sure. Whenever you hear the guitar tone changing and then it gets a more syncopated sound, that's Dev Bag's riff. So
Okay.
that's near the end. And then the last riff, it's us both playing together.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
Nice.
Yeah,
Wow,
so
wow.
he contributed like a whole chunk of the song is just his riffing. And then I said, hey, dude, just do what I do at the end and we're going to end just doing this together. So yeah, it turned out to be a really good song. Yeah.
It's awesome. Well,
That's
and your
awesome.
guys' styles meld so seamlessly. See, I would have assumed that like you play guitar and he played bass, or like vice versa. But hearing that he played some riffs and then you played some riffs, it's like you would think it was just all one guitarist. You guys blended together so well. Yeah, like how did the collab happen? Like what brought this song about for you guys?
Yeah, well, first of all, just one thing. I don't know if the connection is slow or something, but you guys just froze on my screen. So can you still see
Yeah,
me
You
moving
just
around?
froze too.
we just froze.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I wrote it down something that I wanted to mention that you guys talked about the punch of how the guitar is punchy and all,
Yeah.
and that's something that actually comes from the bass playing. It's a way of playing the bass that adds punch to the sound itself. Because something I learned, especially watching Mick Gordon, is how to get those sounds to really punch you in the face, right? Without having to actually punch your instrument super hard. Because
Right.
if you pick your string really hard, especially on an 8 string guitar, it's just gonna wobble. It's just gonna go bow, and it's gonna go sharp, and it won't sound really good. If you pluck it really hard on the bass, you will end up hitting the pickups of the bass, and it won't sound really that good either. If you just compress it a lot, the drums will sound super snappy, and it will also won't sound really that good. So what I figured out is something that many people have figured out is how to actually play your bass to make that punch come through. Is if you notice on my videos, I'm not like, I don't know if you can see it here, but I'm not really playing the bass here all the time, right? I'm
Yeah.
mostly playing it up here as if it were tapping.
Oh, so you're not
So what I
tapping. I
learned
usually
is
think
that
you're
if you
tapping.
just hit the string super hard here, like,
Okay.
it gives you that punch that you need without
Wow.
blowing the speakers, because you're not actually hitting the pickups, you're not hitting between the pickups,
Oh, that's
so you're not
yeah.
getting that nasty click sound. You're not
Yeah.
slapping, because that's a totally different sound and it gives you harmonics. But if you actually hit the strings right here on the neck, you get that punch sound that comes through. So it's like,
Wow, dude.
so that technique I actually learned from the guy that plays in Mudvayne, from the bass player of Mudvayne. If you
Oh
watch
hell
any
yeah,
of the
yeah. He's a
live
monster.
videos, you will see him with his hand on the neck of the guitar, just playing as if he were tapping, but he's not actually tapping. He is hammering the strings in a way that gives a super hard punch to the song. Listen to the song Internal Primates Forever, Mudvayne, and just hear the difference between when the guitar is playing on its own, when the drums start, and then when the bass kicks in. When the bass kicks in, that's when the real punch starts. So I figured, well, let me try to blend that bass playing technique with what Mick Gordon taught me about how sub bass ranges work with an 8 string guitar, see what happens. And that's how he gets that huge punch on all of his songs.
Wow, dude.
Oh, that makes
That's
so much
fucking
sense too. Yeah,
awesome,
because it
dude.
has the control. You
Yeah,
have the
absolutely. I
chord
honestly thought
control.
that you were tapping. I thought you were tapping when you were doing that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
I was like,
it
oh
really
man,
looks
all
like
right.
tapping, and
Yeah,
I got
that's
some people
sick.
asking me, like, how do you get an aggressive sound from tapping? It's not actually tapping; it's just super hard hitting the strings. But you have to be careful not to hit the strings where there are harmonics, natural
Yeah.
harmonics, or else you're just gonna get those, right? But
Wow.
if you just hit the strings like super hard over the neck, you get a very different sound. So the thing about bass playing is that so much of the tone of your bass comes from your hands, actually,
Yeah.
because you're using all your fingers at once, right? So you can have all the amps, you can have all the drives and the whole setup and everything. But if you're playing it in different ways, I mean, different players will have very different sounds regardless of their setup, because a bass is much more intimate than, for example, a guitar that you just use a pick, right?
Yeah.
Obviously,
Sure,
the
yeah.
hands of the player influence a lot, but on the bass even more so.
Wow. So was that
Wow.
like a lot of trial and error?
Oh
Trying
yeah,
to
a
figure out
lot.
like the
Yeah, to
perfect
get that
technique.
sound right, it took me a lot. Yeah, and
Yeah.
throughout the whole song, the BFG 30,000, all the bass lines, I'm playing them like that, all of them. So
Oh
that's why it
wow.
sounds super punchy. It's
Yeah.
not actually the double bass that is hitting you straight on the face. It's the fingering
It's the
on the bass
fingers.
strings.
Wow.
Genius.
Wow, man.
That's so
It's so
genius.
cool. Yeah, that's the one thing that fascinates me so much about this genre that you're playing. It's it's so many different genres. There's more than just metal. There's all these different techniques that you're using to create
Yeah.
this. And like you brought up a little bit with the 8-string guitars about how different it is to write with that and to play with that. How big of a challenge was it for you to start to do that, or was it easier being a bass player to kind of work with those lower tones?
Yeah, it was definitely easier for me to transition to an eight-string guitar because of bass playing. Um, because what I was doing when I was in a band is I wanted to come up with the riffs, right? I wanted to come up with the catchy guitar riffs, but I sucked at guitar. So I couldn't just take a six-string guitar and do the riffs as fast and as clean as a guitar player could. But whenever I ran drive and distortion through my bass and try to play on the higher strings, it didn't really sound good because I mean, an overdriven bass, in my opinion, does not sound good. So I couldn't get all those chugs and the palm muted right. So I was like, man, if only there was an instrument, there was a half breed between a guitar and a bass, and hey, that's an eight-string guitar. That's exactly what an eight-string guitar is. So me having to transition to an eight-string was a lot easier because I'm not playing an eight-string guitar as a guitar. I'm playing an eight-string guitar as a bass player, but I'm also mostly thinking about the rhythmic session of the song. So it's mostly one string or two strings, no chords, um, riffs that are very syncopated as if they were bass lines, but play with distortion on strings that would actually sound good when played in distortion. So it was a challenge because it's a whole different instrument. It's not the same as a guitar. Like I heard someone say in an interview that a seven-string guitar is just a six-string with a plus, but an eight-string is not just a six-string with two plus. It's just a whole different instrument because you got to have a lot more control on what you're playing because you will get harmonics everywhere if you don't control the strings well. You will get string noise everywhere if you don't mute the right strings on the right time. And so it's difficult to play. It was very difficult for me to learn how to play it properly and to make it sound good. I still could not, for the life of me, play an eight string live. If I had to do it live,
Wow.
it would just sound awful. I
Wow.
can play it because I have to be sitting down. I have to make sure that my hand is muting the right strings. I have to make sure that I'm doing the like where my hand is going because there's just so many strings. It's just
Yeah,
a
it seems like
very
it takes like
thick
a lot
neck.
of
It's a very wide
concentration.
and thick neck,
Yeah.
and you have to be paying close attention. The more
Yeah.
strings you have, the less space you have
Yep.
between
The
the
closer
strings.
they gonna be.
So
Wow.
for the people who can actually shred and play leads on an eight string, that's amazing. Kudos to y'all because that's really hard. But I found an eight string and hopefully a nine string next year. Who
Oh my
knows? Maybe
God, man.
maybe maybe if all goes well.
Damn.
All right.
These lower tune guitars are perfect for someone like me who really enjoys uh, who comes from a bass playing world to have a guitar that kind of feels like a bass. So it's again, it's not one or the other. It's right there in between, and I really like that gray area because it allows you to experiment so much. It's like you don't really have any expectations. If you grab a a Jackson or a Fender, people expect you to do something like chords and solos and stuff on a guitar. If you grab a bass, people expect you to do certain things on a bass. If you sit
Sure,
on a
yeah.
drum set, people expect a drum solo. But if you grab an eight string, people don't really know what an eight string is. I mean, mainstream people don't really know what an eight string is. Like, what do you do with that? So there
Yeah.
Yeah,
aren't
like where
very
do you
many
start?
expectations to what I'm about to do with it. So it's very
Yeah.
experimental, and I really like it.
That's really
Hell
cool.
yeah.
When I like how excited you are about it, how it's like a playground for you, like where you're just gonna like mess around with different sounds, just kind of see what happens. That's really cool. And Ghost Tech actually in the chat was saying like while you were talking about the eight string and how hard it is to like kind of figure it out. He said it took him long enough to learn how to use a seven string.
Oh, yeah.
So like the eight string just sounds like crazy to him. So I can't even imagine. But it does seem like it's really cool. Like it could just be like whatever sound you make of it. Kind of whatever sound you find with it, and you make it work. It sounds pretty cool. But what do you plan to do with the nine string?
Oh,
Go
I
way
mean,
heavier.
Doom 2016, the main track of Doom 2016 is played on a nine string.
Oh wow.
It's so basically it's tuned to C sharp, so that's C sharp one. That's very low. I um, I made a song on D1, which is Chant of the Maker. So if you drop tune in 8 string to D, you can still play it. It's pretty sloppy, but it's just basically a regular down tune on an 8 string.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds super heavy, but you lose some of the tension that a tighter string will give you. A 9
Right.
string will give you all of that tension
Tension, but you
and
make
Okay.
that
it sound
super muddy
nice.
low end that is
And still
perfect for
keep it like
some kind of
audible.
sounds.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, wow, awesome. I
That's
can't wait
awesome,
to hear
man.
that. Oh, that's going to be really cool. We're going to get into another
Well,
track
yeah,
of yours here.
let's get into
Oh, wait,
this.
aren't we going to go on
Yeah,
there?
but let's see, because I know
All
he
right, we'll
has
test
some
out the
lyric
video.
videos here that he wants to.
I think Lillum is the lyric one.
Okay.
So this is another Doom inspired track of yours that we have here. So this next one we're going to play is
This is the Fall of Davoth.
all right, so let's hear this. Warp Sector would do a 35 string. Oh, yes. Oh, I love this. So this is so synth-wavy right here. Wow, this is beautiful. Yeah, wow. Talk about the perfect
Like
marriage of some like doom metal with synthwave.
that
That
was
was,
awesome.
oh man, that was so good. That was so so good. All right, so we're getting you pulled back up here.
All
Yes, it
right.
works. Yeah, so tell us about that one.
Yeah,
That
this
was a
one
hell of a
is
track.
actually the first step into the direction that I actually want to take. So it has synthwave, it has the Doom Mick Gordon kind of mixing and the sounds. It has black metal vocals
Yes.
and
Very
operatics.
black
So
metal
that is,
feel to it.
This is the direction you want to go. That
yeah,
track was kind of
yeah. Basically, because so this one, I don't want to be always making Doom themed music. I obviously want to transition into my own sound, but that doesn't mean I want to drop the Doom sound that I have learned with studying and watching the Mick Gordon stuff.
right.
So this song has what I most like about the Doom soundtrack, which is the super down-tuned, in-your-face synth sounds. It
Mm-hmm.
has that synthwave part in the middle that tries to transform the Doom sounds I created in the first half in and transition them into synthwave, and then it transitions into black metal vocals and blast beats and double bass. And that this track was actually the first track I ever tried vocals. So all those vocals were actually me doing them.
Oh no
Um,
way, man!
Wait, and you
I
said you
was gonna
can't do
ask you that.
vocals? What?
What?
yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
can't do them properly. I really hurt my throat doing them, like really
Oh yeah,
bad.
we
I
don't
was
want
very
that. Don't do
raspy
that.
after doing those. They sound good. I added. I obviously had to add a little bit of drive to make them more aggressive and all. There was some mixing wizardry over there, but basically that's my those are my vocals. But after I was done with that track, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna reach out for vocals because until I learn how to do them properly, I'm not gonna mess up my voice doing this every
Yeah,
time in
do
every
No,
track.
not.
that's smart, man. You
You're
definitely
very,
don't
very
want to do
smart.
that.
Some artists go like half of their career before they realize maybe I shouldn't be doing this to my throat.
Yeah. So it was cool because I was able to mix them and blend it in uh, to my liking, and I didn't want to just do a track that was a soundtrack to gameplay. And I wanted to kind of do like an opera. So from beginning to end is like the story of how the Doomslayer and his eternal feud with the Dark Lord Devoth and how he falls and all of that.
Mhm.
Um, the only part that is actual English is the last part, which is a direct quote from the game. Have you nothing to say to your creator before you strike him down? That's like the only English part. Everything else is just gibberish that I thought demon language would sound like. So it has
Sounded
no
awesome.
literal lyrics. It's just chanting in words that I made up that I thought would sound like would have come out of the mouth of a demon.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
And I was sitting here thinking when the song first came on, I even made a comment. I was like, oh, this vocal sample is really cool. Because I assumed it was something like from the game that you had taken. You know, it sounded like demon
Yeah,
chanting.
definitely. It definitely
Like you
sounded
nailed
rooted
that.
from the game. Yeah, you definitely nailed that sound.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
That
Yeah,
was
I
really
recorded
cool.
one line and then I don't have a microphone, so I'm recording everything on the same earbud
Wow.
microphone that I'm using right now. So I just
What?
I just held it
Wow.
like right in front of my mouth, did the chanting, and then I put it a little bit to the left, recorded again, and then I put it like very far away, recorded again, put it to the right, and recorded again. And so I could have like layers where the sound would actually sound like it was being mic'd from different perspectives. See, that's the
Wow.
thing you learn when you don't have gear. You see, I would never have thought of that if I had the gear to doing that. But
Yeah,
because I
no,
didn't have it, I was like, all
absolutely.
right, how can I make this? So you just YouTube some tips and tricks, and you're like, hey, you can actually pretend and make it work that to a point where it sounds kind of nice.
Wow, that's
That's
so
so
cool.
awesome,
But
man.
that's so that just goes back to more of that and like ingenuity that you
Yeah.
have with you just make the absolute best out of everything that you have because I mean I even was thinking while I was listening I'm like wow this is like if Cradle of Filth had some synthwave in it. I'm like damn now Cradle of
And
Filth
drop
needs to get on the
tunes.
synthwave game.
That's
Yeah.
nice. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
thank
no,
you.
that you killed it with those vocals. Wow, would have never guessed that it was
Yeah,
just some
hopefully that's
earbud
the kind of
microphone.
sound that I will be going for, and then obviously be adding um, classical elements to it, and maybe come up and morph into something extremely original. Who knows?
That's awesome, man. It's already something
Absolutely.
extremely original
Yeah.
from what you've shown us so far. That's an awesome little sneak peek.
So cool.
Dude, just keep at it. I can't wait to see what this becomes.
Yeah, well, and speaking of what's next, we have a track from your newest project. Now, pronounce it again for us.
Yeah, I believe the correct pronunciation would be Homoiousios.
Okay. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna butcher it.
I'm not sure either. There's a woman who is part of the project. She's doing vocals. She's from Greece, and she sent me an audio pronouncing this word correctly, but I forgot. So for now, the official pronunciation, because I'm the one who came up with the whole thing, it's Homoiousios.
Well,
So
there you go.
it's a hard name to pronounce, but it doesn't really matter. If it
Homoiousios.
catches on regardless of.
Yeah.
Well, and it looks nice as a word itself. It's
It
a
looks
very
pretty, doesn't
nice
it? Yeah.
looking word. Yeah, it is, and it's like one that lends very well to like some good metal lettering. Like I can see it nicely on merch and everything. It looks good. It looks good. So this is
Lillum.
ooh, these vocals are so vital remains. Oh my god, that's so. This is the track with the 3 different languages.
Like some Nightwish vibes, man.
Wow.
dude.
I have chills right now.
Just wow.
Oh my God. That was a big song. That was a big, big song. So how you had how many vocalists on that track?
Yeah, that's this track only has two vocalists. So
Okay.
all the heavy growls is a guy from Mexico. He's doing the Spanish and English parts, and then the
Killed it.
woman is from Portugal. She's doing the choruses in Portuguese. And
Wow.
this actually started as an attempt for me to learn how to mix drums, because what you heard is just a demo that I did on I made on my iPad actually.
Okay.
Oh
Um,
my God.
so like the guitars are Cubase. They're all recorded inside Cubases, and it's bias effects to the tones. They're not like super fancy. The
Okay.
bass, everything is being recorded through an iRig H2 that costs like $70,
Wow.
and all the drum samples are for free. I just downloaded them off
I was
metal
literally just gonna
forums,
ask.
all of them.
Yeah, I was just gonna
And
ask you.
here's the
Wow.
coolest thing of all. The guy who did vocals from Mexico, back when he did his vocals, he didn't have an interface or a microphone. All he did was scream directly into his iPhone
Oh my
What?
god, dude.
inside WhatsApp, and then he
Yeah.
sent me the audio, and
Yeah.
then
Oh my
I
God.
just pieced them together. And then the lady from Portugal, she actually went to a studio and recorded the vocals professionally and sent them over. But the very aggressive ones, none of them were recorded with a microphone. It's just a
That's
guy
crazy.
putting an
Holy
iPhone inside
shit.
his bedroom, and I actually told him like, stand like this far from your phone when you're screaming this way, when you're screaming
Yeah.
that way, and then
Yeah.
just like do takes with your phone to your left and to your right. And so we just worked all out with the on the super budget. On a super budget, we just did this
That's
everything on
amazing,
iPad,
man.
iPhone, and cheap guitar tones. So it came out super nice. And because I was able to make that song on an iPad, I was like, all right, so this sounds to my liking. I love the samples. I love everything about it. Now I'm going to buy an iMac and make a whole album with proper recording gear that sounds like this. So with that demo in hand, I went out to look for vocalists, and they really liked it. And there's 17 now. There's 17 to 18 tracks ready already, with good sounding drums, with good sounding guitars, and it's sounding huge. It's sounding amazing. I'm really really excited about all of this. And my hope is that somehow I'm going to be able to add that symphonic and metal flavor to whatever I'm doing over at the GJ.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, it's why the last song beforehand, like the Fall of Davoth, you really kind of brought it into that. Like I heard a lot of arrangement
Yeah, like
that
the
was very
keys of it.
similar to this. Like so, you're definitely inching your way there, man. That's dude, just well done, man. Thank you for so much
I know. I'm
for
like
sharing
Thank
both
speechless.
of
you.
these projects, dude. It's so impressive, man. You just like you're somebody's got a song in your heart, dude. And no matter what, you're gonna be able to get that out, dude. That's
It's
fucking impressive, man. And it's truly inspirational.
oh
I
my
really,
God.
dude. Every single piece is just awesome, and I'm so excited to see what you do next, man.
Yeah, and
Well,
Warp
thank you.
Sector's like, I'm gonna buy every single song that you come out with.
Yeah.
Well,
You
thank
got
you.
some
Yeah,
ride or
that's really
dies.
nice. For
Wow.
this project, I reached out to a drummer of my favorite band, Flesh God Apocalypse.
Oh,
They're
what?
very readily available on Facebook. So I reached out to the drummer, and I tried to work a deal with him, and I like really asked him if he could do a drum playthrough of a song. So we're
Yeah.
still talking about it. So he might
Oh,
do a drum playthrough of one of the songs,
Dude.
and if
yes.
that happens, then I'll just be able to die in peace, because
Oh
having
Dude.
the drummer
man.
of my favorite band playing on one of my songs, that's just gonna be off the charts joy.
That's next
Oh,
level,
I
man.
hope that
That's
happens for
next
you, dude.
level.
Oh my God, I really, really hope that happens for you. But just seeing where everything's going,
I don't think
I
it's
can't
out of the realm of
imagine.
possibility.
No, I can't imagine he wouldn't want to be a part of something like this because you really are like innovating metal with what you're doing. You're taking it into the future. Like this is the future of metal and synth music. It's just it's so cool. And I'm sorry, I'm just still so blown away of the
Thank
ingenuity
you.
of you and your collaborators and just how cool technology is. Like how cool is it that technology is so accessible now that you just just have a phone in your hands and you can make studio quality productions like that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
that's the thing I was mostly surprised with, because obviously GarageBand doesn't have a lot of power to process music like that, but for like 40 to 50 bucks, you can get Cubase's 3 on your iPad. That it's basically a semi-professional, if not a professional DAW, and you can make music
yep.
like that all the time. Like literally every Doom track I ever made that I sent to you guys was done on my iPad, all of them, with synths that I bought for like $5 here, $5 there, inside
Wow.
Cubases on my iPad. Later on, when I was able to get the Mac, I exported all those ready tracks and just mastered them in Logic. But all the mixing, all the sound design, all the riffs, all the tracking, everything was done inside Cubases on my iPad with free drum samples, finger drumming on screen because I didn't have a keyboard control to use it with. So it was all programmed, and yeah, you can do amazing things with an iPad nowadays.
That's
That's so
so
cool.
awesome, man.
That's
That's
so cool.
so
And that's one
awesome.
that's really inspirational for like anyone who's listening or watching right now who isn't like wants to get into music or isn't quite sure or oh, I don't have tens of $1,000s to put in it you don't need all that. You don't need all that and this is proof of it right here and that's so cool. Like this is the future. Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
for
so
sure,
cool.
for sure.
Well,
Hell yeah, man. Well, thanks
dude,
for
thank you
taking us
so
on that
much for
journey
sharing
and
those with us. Oh my god.
yeah, and taking us behind the scenes a bit, dude. That's really awesome and really exciting, and it's just another awesome example of an amazing musician in this community, dude.
Yeah,
So
dude. Thank you. Yeah,
thank
thank
you
you for
again.
finding us, by the way.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank you
finding
for
us
letting us
and
be a
gracing
part of
us
this
with this.
Well,
and
thank you
see
guys for
these
being
behind the
around because
scenes.
it's super tough to find a streaming community that does live streaming reactions and conversations like this that is actually honest and sincere on the reactions. I have done a couple of paid streaming, like you submit a song, you pay to a streamer on YouTube, they do the reaction and all. It's fun. It's really nice. Some of them really do give you good feedback and all, but I mean it's expensive and a lot of them just really kind of fake their reactions just because you're paying. They kind of have to either super like it or super not like it. They can't just chill and like a song because you're paying
Yeah.
them and they have this huge following. So it's actually
Yeah.
really hard to find a channel or content creators that will be very honest in their reactions. And when I found Outworld Sounds, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I want because you guys are very honest. Everyone in the chat is super honest, very supportive, and it's a very healthy internet community, and that is hard to find. Healthy
Oh
on the internet
yeah.
is hard.
Oh
Yes.
yeah. This it's
We were very naive when we started doing this. We didn't think about that aspect of it. Thank God, we've been able to kind of like keep our safe little bubble here because yeah, it's true. And no matter what you're putting out, there's someone that's just gonna shit on it for some
Yeah.
reason. But here like and especially with the artists that we've been so like I don't use this word, but like blessed to come in contact with, everyone is just real. Everyone's just real and just cool and you're super accessible.
Mhm.
There's no airs about anything. There's no egos. Like everyone just leaves their ego at the door, and it's
Yeah,
just it's just
what's
cool.
super nice is that the people in the streams, mostly I'm speaking mostly of the Taste of the Underground because that's when I'm available to watch the streams.
yeah.
People actually listen to whatever is playing and interact with it and enjoy it. They don't just wait for their song to be played and then just get out of the stream and go do something else. So they actually participate, listen, like each other's stuff. I mean, I just seen the pictures of you guys with Unheard Sirens just going on trips and liking each other's stuff and taking pictures. So that's a very nice, very nice community that you guys got going.
Well, hopefully it'll be with you one of these days soon. We would love come hang out with you and see you in person and everything. So this is like that like first little step, and that's why when we were trying to think of like who we wanted to spotlight this month, you were like one of the first names that popped up in our head, just because you're so active in this community, you're so positive, and you're one of the very core people that makes this community what it is. So, aside
Thank you.
from, yeah, your music's cool and all, but like you're an amazing person.
Yeah, man.
So, thank you so much, and just thank you for being a part of all of this, and helping to make this what it is. But
Awesome. Thank you guys.
yeah, but
All right,
we
so yeah,
have some
we got
questions
some
from our
questions
community.
from the
Throw
Discord
them at
here.
me. Let's see.
All right.
Alrighty. So, all right. Some of these we've touched on. Yeah, our buddy Colt Vex here threw out in the chat. He wants to know how often do you work on your music, because it seems like you're pumping them out like a machine. You know.
Yeah. Well, I am constantly working on music. Prior to maybe when I was just starting to make, I would spend hours and hours and hours and lose some sleep over making music. But now my wife has helped me to create a schedule for me to make music within certain hours. So like I get off work, I need to have a break. I gotta go for a walk with the puppy, spend time with the wife. We cook, we do something, and then I have this window that I make music in.
Oh no.
Oh, did we
Oh,
lose them? Oh,
Oh,
you
can you
cut
guys
out
still
for
hear me?
just a sec.
we can
Yep,
still hear you.
now we
Yeah,
can
you
hear
cut out
you.
for just a second.
Okay, no problem.
Oh, you still there?
You still there?
Are we still there?
Yeah, we're
Oh,
still
okay.
good.
We
We're
can
good.
hear you. All right, you're back.
Okay, cool, cool. Uh, yeah, so what I was saying, yeah, the schedule. Yeah, so I'm still
Mhm.
struggling to kind of get into the routine of just working on music within those windows that we have scheduled for me to work in music. So it's still hard when I'm like walking the dog. I'm all of a sudden catch myself just staring into the distance and there's a riff playing in my head. And then my wife just nudges me and she's like, "Are you thinking about music?" I'm like, "Ah, yes, yes, I have to disconnect. I have to stop this and just enjoy the walk."
Yeah.
But mostly I have been working on music like nonstop, hours and hours every day, especially on the weekends for the past 2 years. And it's a trait of my personality, I guess, that could be bad or could be good, but I'm very obsessive over art. My family is extremely artistic. Everyone in my family either sketches, paints, writes, or does something. I grew up sketching, drawing, and painting, and I was very obsessed over that. So I was doing it a lot. And then I discovered music. I put that aside, and I kind of obsessed over music, and I'm on my music phase right now. So short answer, man, I work on music all the time. But because my music is mostly made on mobile devices, it's a lot easier to just get an
Oh
idea down and
wow.
polish it later.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah,
Wow. So
that's a good
because you don't have
point.
to go into the studio to like make it a big event, you can just do it wherever you're at and get
Yep.
out the idea.
Yeah,
And
yeah, my phone is full of weird audios. If you just go into the memos of my phone, you have like this weird, bap, 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 weird things that I'm doing with my
little
voice, but
voice
it's because
recordings.
that's like the drum line I thought, and I want to put it to play later on.
That's
That's
great.
amazing though.
And
I love it.
I love hearing your wife sounds like just an absolute saint and just
Yeah.
an awesome person, that she is involved and helps you out, but she also like gives you parameters to like help try to like give you like your work and life and art balance. That's so cool that you guys
Yeah,
like work together
she
like
is an
that.
essential part of everything I do. That's the reason why the J is there in the name, because without her, I probably
I
have
love
would
that
have been
so much.
overstressed, overworked, tired,
Yeah.
very annoyed with everything I was making, because she helps me keep in check, and she helps me a lot in the production side, like getting rid of things that I think are nice but are actually very annoying sounds. So she helps me trim a song down to a point where it's good to be released. And we
That's
actually
beautiful.
bonded over music when we met. So
Oh
she's a big
wow.
part of my sound.
Oh, that's
So
so
that's
cool. I
amazing,
love
man.
that. I
That's
love that.
amazing.
One, yeah, you have to have like that love like element in your music, even if it's like an outside like person or just pouring your heart into it. but it definitely you can see it when it's there in the music. So that's awesome.
Hell yeah.
That's really cool.
Very cool. Brings that heart to it.
Yeah.
All right. So our next question is so what are some things that almost what are some things that you do in your mixes, or do you approach your mixes differently every time? Is there like a template that you do for your mixing, or do you approach it differently every time?
I have not have enough songs that I really enjoy to have made templates out of them yet. So basically, every song I approach is different. If you listen to the album Until It Is Done, which is a collection of all the Doom tracks I've done, each of them has a different drum sound. Each of them has a different guitar tone. The only consistent thing is the bass sound, because a bass is a bass. There is no real big production behind it. It's just the new strings and that's it. But every other aspect of the synth sound, the drum sound, everything is different in every track. So I don't really have a template that I use, or a mix that I like to get to in every song I do. But I do have mixing techniques that I picked up along the way that are super helpful for the styles that I'm working on, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the one that I have learned that really helped me was obviously with Mick Gordon. He helped me understand it better. Is that when you're mixing, when you're working with an 8-string guitar, you are by definition working with super low end frequencies, and a bass is super low frequencies, and heavy drums are super low frequencies, and synths are low frequency, right? So if you just stack them all together, you just have mud, right? On your spectrum frequency, you just have a huge low end and then almost no mids and highs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I try to deal with that is I have absolute zero low end on my guitar. It's just mids and highs, very overdriven. I have 4 layers of guitar, of 8-string guitar, so 2 to the left, 2 to the right. So 2 very overdriven and 2 very percussive, like very, very percussive sound,
Okay.
almost with no distortion or drive. It's just mostly the string wobbling, because it adds to the final product, right? So 2 guitar pens to the left, 2 guitar pens to the right on 8-string, bass in the middle, obviously, with very little mids and highs, just a lot of low end. And then the thing is, when you're working with an 8-string, the lower you go on the guitar, the higher you have to go on the bass.
Oh wow.
So I usually
Because you have
do
to match
drop
the
E
Yeah.
frequencies.
on an 8-string, so that's E1 on the piano. That's super low. If you try to go that low, if you try to go an octave low on a bass on E, to me, it just sounds like mud. Some bands actually do that. They have a multi-scale 5-string tuned down to an octave below regular standard E, to a low E on the bass. I don't think it sounds good. It's too hard to deal with it. So instead, I just go with a regular standard E on the bass, and it's just in the frequency range that allows you to put a sub synth under. So it's
Okay.
8-string guitar, let's say E, and then my bass, regular standard E, and then under all of that, there are the exact same guitar lines played on synth. The exact same riffs, even the bends and everything, they're just precisely the same as the
Oh
guitar,
wow.
but they are sub bass, and usually just a lead, again without the low end frequencies, or else everything gets too muddy. But at the end of the day, one of those tracks, like Chant of the Maker, has 45 tracks. My project 7 has 45 tracks. Every
Wow.
little bleep and blop and sound and track is a new
Little
track
nuance.
on the session,
Wow.
and you just have to be able to stack them together in a way that they're not going to cancel each other, that they're not going to
Yeah.
create
Mm-hmm.
phasing issues. But mostly when mixing heavy music like this with 8-string guitars, you have to pay a lot of attention to your low end, or else you're just going to drown everything in low frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Oh man.
Absolutely. And that's some good tips too.
Hell yeah.
For anyone that
Oh,
is trying
yeah,
to
I
get
mean,
into this deeper,
even
lower
for, oh, I'm sorry,
stuff.
I'm sorry, but it's breaking up a little. I think I interrupted you.
Oh no, 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 you're good. No, I was just saying that this is some good tips that you're giving as well for anyone listening who wants to get into the heavier, lower stuff. This is
Oh,
really
right,
good
right.
stuff to
Yeah,
know.
I have
It's
actually
great
have
stuff to know.
a good example right here in front of me. Remember the sound that I played earlier? This one? Oh, I have to select them. Yeah, this one. You can
Okay.
hear it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right. So this is actually a sound I made, and I'm playing tracks at the same time. So let me break them down. So this is the lead. It has no low end. It's just a synth sound being run through a guitar amp simulation.
Okay.
Right? It's pretty analog. It's just a synth
Mhm.
running through a guitar amp. This is the bass sound, and this is the pad sound. Wait. These are the three sounds that I layer them, and once you layer them all together, this is what comes out.
Ooh.
Wow. All right.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this is working this mixing technique of just layers of
Yeah.
sounds that in the end will complement each other and give you a
Just to
huge
make the
sound.
synth
And then you
sound.
put
Yeah.
guitars on top of that and you start creating a wall of sound.
Wow.
Wow.
And
That's
that's
awesome.
why everything you make sounds so big.
Yeah. Cool, because
Because
it all feeds off
every
the head.
frequency is hit, everything is just layered so nicely on top of each other.
It's stacking the right sounds on with each other, and
Yeah.
the
Well,
right
and that's what
harmonies.
stuck out to me a lot about your music, and why we started to love Mick Gordon so much as well, because when you take something so low, like you see it in some metal these days, the name of the game is how low can you go, and some of it just
Yeah.
becomes so inaudible. You can't make out
You
any
can't distinguish
melody.
anything.
You can't distinguish the guitar from the bass, from the kick. But the way you're doing it and the techniques that you're doing it with, that stacking of the frequencies and making sure to play close attention, everything stays audible. Everything stays right where it's supposed to be. You hear everything in the range that it's supposed to be, and nothing gets lost. And I
Yeah,
I love
it's
that.
hard work, but it pays off. You'll learn a
Oh,
lot along the
absolutely.
way. And I mean, I could not have done this if I had not gotten into EDM. Because this is like people who deal with EDM music, industrial instruments, they know this. So
Yeah.
for me as a metalhead, applying this to death metal, applying this, trying to combine this with EDM, I'm just learning a lot because there's guitar mixing, there's bass mixing, there's drum mixing, and then all of a sudden there's this whole different
New
universe
world of
of
Yep.
synth
synths.
mixing
Yeah.
that you're
Yep.
bringing in and making
And
it
then
sit together. So
combining the
it's a
two.
very nice journey.
Yeah. Wow. And a couple people in their chat are like, oh my, light bulbs are going off. Like, oh, I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try that technique now. Yeah, it's cool because it's not just a metal thing. You're taking an EDM technique, putting it into metal, but it can be applied to anything, as long as you are, putting
Following
that
the
thought
frequencies
into
right.
it. Yep, and
Yeah.
just following the frequencies right, and you can make a big sound.
Yeah, it's
It
awesome,
sounds great. Yeah.
It's
Well,
awesome.
thank you. That was a great answer. Colt Vex was like super happy
Hmm.
with that answer because he deals a lot with lower frequencies, with
Yeah, and
bass and
stacking
everything
his
too, and
bases and stuff.
stacking. So
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, I mean, I'm same as you. I started in the metal world and playing guitar, and I've learned so much from learning mixing electronic music to apply to that. And it's like we were talking about
Hmm.
earlier with the guitar and the bass and having them sit well with each other. It's the
mhm.
same concepts, but bringing it all together and learning that nice marriage of everything and having everything sit so well is awesome. It's hard, and that's why like what I was saying to you earlier about a lot of your stuff, how impressive it is and how awesome it is that you still have that punch and that hit to it. And it's cool that we got to hear a
Yeah,
little
we can
bit
hear
about
every
how.
element. So we got
Well,
any more questions from our
Yeah, we
Discord
do.
here?
We got a couple from Warp Sector here. Where do you get your inspiration, and what are your favorite genres to listen to when you aren't writing music?
all right. So my favorite genre right now, because I change every time I discover a new band or something, but right now I've been listening to a ton of Flesh God Apocalypse,
Nice.
and they have opened up the world of uh, symphonic metal for me. So mostly I'm listening to symphonic metal. When I'm studying, when I'm doing something, I find that the overwhelming amount of sounds that are being generated at the same time and the speed and the growlings of everything, it overwhelms me to a point where I can focus on whatever I'm doing and don't get distracted by it. So whenever I'm not making music, I'm usually blasting like super aggressive symphonic metal on my head on my earbuds. Before this, I was listening to the Doom soundtrack nonstop because I was still playing Doom Eternal. I still had to beat the game, and that soundtrack is just perfect.
Just
It's
can't
just
get
a
enough.
perfect combination of aggression and ambience and everything. So I was listening to a lot, a lot of that as well. And what was the other question? So what am I listening to? And oh, inspiration, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my inspiration usually uh, comes from classical music, I'd say. Most of the motifs that I come up with are from classical music, like maybe one line of a piano piece from Chopin sounded cool. That line translated to synth sounds badass. And then when you add guitar on top, oh, now I have a song, right? So there's
Very
one
cool.
part of the cello concerto of Bach, which is one of my favorite pieces. I really like a certain riff that the cello does. So I was like, okay, let me make that into a guitar riff, and then that guitar riff springs into a whole different song. But mostly my inspiration comes from very specific either lines or sounds. But when I'm working with EDM, I don't play the piano and then, ooh, that sounds nice, because I can play the piano pretty well. So I try working with sound design, and when I get to a sound I like, just a single note, just like this one that I played previously, the well, it's off now, but just that one sound that I really enjoy. Once I get to that sound, I make that sound into a riff, and then I work a song out of it. So mostly it's from one-liners from a song here and there, or just a specific sound that I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
Nice.
Very nice.
Nice.
Very nice.
Nice. All right, one more from Warp Sector. If you could collab with any artist, who would it be?
I'm sorry, come again. If I could what?
If you could collab with any artist, who would it be?
Oh, gee, I don't know. Let me see. Mick Gordon. If I could
Have a
choose
guess.
any artist in the world, I would definitely want to collab with Mick Gordon, but I wouldn't be able to collab with him. I just look at him and let him make the songs and just appreciate it. But for reals, if I could collab with anyone, with on the DJ side, Mick Gordon. On the metal side, Flesh God Apocalypse for sure, for absolute
Nice.
sure.
Very, very nice. Oh, that
Nice.
would be epic if you and Vic got together. That would be so cool.
All right, and then we got our last couple questions here from V Vampire. Do you have any? What's your best tips for upcoming artists?
My best. I'm sorry. The call is breaking a little. My best what?
Your best tips.
Hmm. For upcoming artists. Wow, it'd be hard to say because I don't listen to a lot of new upcoming music. But if I could give anyone a tip to listen to someone that they think is new and haven't heard before, is Igor.
Okay.
So it's Igor with three R's at the end. So it's Igorrr. What
Okay.
he does, I think he's a French electronic music guy who fuses absolutely every genre you can imagine with super uh, aggressive electronic music. A lot of inspiration, a lot of the stuff I do is modeled after what he does because of the crazy genre mixing that he has. So take a look at this guy. It's Igor with three R's at the end.
Okay.
Specifically, the song Very Noise. The name of the song is Very Noise. It's very inspiring because every couple of bars is a crazy new movement that incorporates every genre you can imagine. And I think he is, although he's super famous, very well known, I think he gets underrated by a lot of people in the metal and more aggressive music side of the community because he's very random. But he has done collabs with, for example, Cannibal Corpse vocalist. I forgot his name. The guy with a huge neck.
Corpse
Uh,
Grinder.
George
Corpse Grind.
Fisher.
Yeah, one of his songs has Corpse Grind with doing vocals all throughout, and it goes from chiptune to very heavy metal to breakdown EDM. So I think he's one
Wow.
of the most creative artists in EDM right now. I
Yeah.
definitely recommend checking him out.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll have to find that and throw it up in the Discord.
I'll have to check that out for
Warp
sure.
Sector knows Igor. Okay, we'll have to. That's some good solid advice too.
All right, and then we got another question here for you. With all the limitations with algorithms, do you let any of these things impact you on your release schedule, or do you just let things happen as they come? Do you feel pressured from it at all?
Yeah, I actually do feel a lot of pressure, and I've been trying to deal with my anxiety of instant gratification that the internet has taught me to expect.
Mm.
Because internet life is you post something and you expect it to go viral. You post something, everybody likes and shares, and if it hasn't been interacted with for a day or two, it's dead in internet in the internet world.
Yeah.
So that kind of mindset has created somewhat of an anxiety whenever I'm releasing songs or making music. So I'm trying to stay away from that and not focus on going big really fast. I'm just really taking my time.
Nice. Good. Huh?
Is able to catch up to my expectations, awesome. But in the end of the day, I am making music for myself. I
Oh
am
yeah.
really, I understand that it takes a long time to get noticed. Um, a lot of the YouTubers that I really enjoy, I look at their videos and how they really got big. They got big like after 5 years of a
Mhm.
lot of content that not really a lot of people watched. And then once you go big, they just go back and watch all your videos. So I kind of know how becoming an artist on the internet is, but at the same time I want that instant gratification that causes a lot of anxiety and almost made
Yeah.
me want to give up on making music because I wasn't getting the results I wanted. But just in the end of the day, I'm making music that I really enjoy. I'm learning a lot. I'm putting it out there. If it goes well, then everyone's happy. If it doesn't go well, then at least I'm very happy.
Hell yeah.
Well,
And that's
that's
what
what.
it's all
Yeah,
about. You know, that's what
exactly.
it's all about. It's all about the love of music.
Exactly. Yeah,
We can
because.
get lost in our egos
Yep.
and the world and the outside validation, you know. And it's sometimes hard to be reminded of that. Why did we start doing this to begin with? You know, I started playing music because I love music. So that's awesome, man. As long as you keep that root.
Yeah, and don't let that, because you know the algorithm. It's very much like a beast that you have to feed, and at a certain point, it what you're feeding it starts to lose its value. If you're more
Yeah.
focused on just feeding the beast and trying to beat that algorithm, you can lose yourself and you can lose your art and you can lose the meaning behind anything. So I think
Yeah.
it's important that you not fall into that. And there's actually I mean, if you follow a lot of YouTubers, there's a pretty cool movement happening where a lot of them are like, no, we're not going to feed the algorithm rhythm anymore. We're not going
Hmm.
to subject ourselves to burnout. And they're like protesting it. And I think it's important that these bigger
Interesting.
YouTubers are doing it for these younger kids or for anyone who's just trying to come up and get into any of this, whether it's the content creation or the music, or in our case both, which sometimes our worlds get like mishmashed. But I think it's
Yeah.
important to see that you don't have to burn yourself out. You don't have to. If the audience is there, you'll find it. You'll
Yeah,
find.
in the end of the day, if I may digress just a little, in the end of
Yeah.
the day, I really don't want to I don't want to be conditioned by the short attention span that internet life uh, makes you creates in you, right? I think
Yeah.
my wife and I, we had just gone to the movies after a while, and we watched that movie, The Last Duel, with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck,
Nice.
and we
Yeah.
loved the movie. It was pretty cool, but it flopped in the box office, right? It was a terrible
Yeah.
disaster in terms
It's
of money.
crazy.
And it's a super long movie, very slow paced, very dark, gritty. There's a lot of drama, long dialogues, and the camera doesn't shake all the time. So it's a movie that will turn most people I know off, because people's attention spans are of a TikTok average user, right? It's
Wow.
just five
Yeah.
seconds, you don't get my attention, you just
It's
go to the next
bad.
one in 5 seconds, in
Yep.
five
It's
seconds.
sad.
So it
Yep.
is not surprising that people didn't enjoy a movie that is actually really good if you give it time to
Mm-hmm.
watch it. But then if you translate that into music listening, you get the same thing. Whenever I open my Spotify for Artists app, I see, oh, 4 people listening. Oh, 1 people listening. Oh, 2 people listening now. And 2 seconds later, oh, nobody's listening anymore. Because most of the way that we've been conditioned to listen to music is the same way we've been conditioned to watch movies and things on YouTube. We just scroll. We give it a 10-second windows. If it doesn't really catch my
Yeah, if it
attention,
doesn't give
we
us
skip
that
it
quick
like that, right?
dopamine. Yep.
And if I fall into that trap of making music that it has to catch you in 10 seconds, then I'm gonna be stuck to a formula that I will have to force myself into making just so that I can be heard. But then the whole creative process gets compromised for the sake of grabbing an audience's attention. So it's a really
Yep.
fine line that you have to walk when you're
Yep.
trying to go big on the internet with music. You cannot fall into the trap of being conditioned to a 10 seconds attention span, but at the same time, you cannot make 5 minutes introductions a la Pink Floyd anymore, because people will not listen to that on Spotify when driving their cars anymore.
No.
So
Unfortunately,
I just
yeah.
have to be careful not to fall into both spectrums of the trap.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no, and you know what? Thank God that you're not, and you're still pushing through, and you're still going the route that you want. Because it's one of the reasons I like refuse to even start a TikTok, because it just rewards short attention span gratification with no merit. You don't have to have talent, and that's cool in some aspects, but you don't have to have talent. You don't have to have anything to say. You can just become famous because, I don't know, people hate your face and they just want to see it every day. It's just
Yeah,
the
it's hard. It's
what's
hard.
rewarded. It's really hard. So good for you for like being above that and not giving into that, and your art shows for it. You have something that is really worthwhile, and that you're striving towards, and it's you just got to cut out that noise. You got to cut out all that stupid noise. But we have one question from our chat. Now, your wife did pop in and help, but we'll give you the chance to answer as well. So Semeski in the chat wants to know, what is your favorite classical piece?
What is my favorite what?
Classical piece.
Oh, yeah. My favorite classical piece of all time, which I think is the absolute heaviest piece of music ever written, is Mozart's Requiem, Lacrimosa movement. That is just absolutely horrifying,
Yeah.
heavy, sad. It sounds like misery to me. So it's
Wow.
Mozart's
Okay.
Requiem. It sounds like the word misery transformed into sounds. That's what it
Yeah.
sounds like. It's super sad. It's it it's like a horror movie. And I think it was, if it had been created today, it would be maybe inside the depressive doom metal genre, because it's got all those vibes. So I
We'll have to check
I
that out.
really
That's a fun one.
love that whole piece, and I'm actually working on a cover of that song, of that
Oh
piece in
yes,
my EDM style. I have a snippet of that on my Instagram. There's just like a picture of
Ooh.
Mozart, and
Okay.
I'm trying, yeah, I'm trying to incorporate, like we talked about before. I'm trying to bring all those elements, and for now, because I can't really compose something in the classical style for now, I'm just going to use somebody else's classical style, and that is Mozart's.
Smart.
So I'm just going
That's
to
how we
transform my
learn, man.
sound to
Yeah.
his melodies.
Hell yeah.
That's perfect.
Hell
That's so
yeah.
smart. One, I do have to say, if you and your wife were playing the Newlyweds game, you would have lost, because her answer,
Yeah, she
I
said
wasn't
Bach,
gonna
didn't
say
she?
anything.
She
She
I was
said
said
gonna let
Bach.
it
cello
go.
concerto Bach. Yeah, I know.
I had to mention that because it was adorable. I'm like, oh man, if you
Oh
guys are
no!
playing that game,
He's gonna be on
you
the
would have
couch
lost that
tonight.
point.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I have ping ponged my opinions between those two songs, but at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I'd say it's Mozart.
Okay. All
Yeah,
Nice.
right.
because
Yeah.
yeah, because that Bach song is the one that we walk the aisle by.
And that's
Oh.
amazing, man. That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
and the
That's
nice thing
awesome.
is that she actually got her college professor to play that live for us on our wedding. So it
That's
was
so
super
awesome,
nice. It was
man.
super special.
Oh, that's
That's
amazing.
so
That's
awesome.
amazing. All right. So, Mrs. GJ. Hopefully that saved him from the couch tonight. That was great. Wow. Thank you so much for this. This has been informative and fun and just eye-opening, and you're just so inspirational to us, and I know to anyone watching, and it's been so awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us today. Seriously, it's been amazing.
Well, thank you guys for the invitation. It's been awesome. Sorry for the glitches. It's probably on my end, but I couldn't turn my camera back
That's
on.
I'm
But you
sure
guys are
it's
not
us.
missing a lot just by
it's
not looking at me, so it's fine.
that's the Twitch world, man. That is the world of Twitch.
Like we said, we just roll with it. We just roll with it. But no, yeah, honestly, it's really been amazing. Everybody in the chat who's here watching, please go follow and support the GJ.
Please, please
His
do.
his links are up there. We'll be posting the videos and the songs that we played tonight in the Discord, so you get another look. And definitely, I know we will be paying very close attention to where you go from here and how your music evolves from here. We're just really really excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for the opportunity. Thanks for everyone in the chat. And yeah, let's keep the stream alive because this is really cool.
Hell
Hell
yeah.
yes. Well, long live the GJ.
Yes. All hail.
All hail the GJ. Thank
Thanks
you
for
so
hanging with us
much.
tonight, man. And well, I guess we'll talk to you next week
Yeah,
and,
we'll be
and
talking to
taste
you
the
very
eyebrow.
soon.
Absolutely, for sure. We'll talk on the stream again.
All right,
All
dude.
right,
We
you have
have
a
a great
great
night.
night.
All right, you guys have a great night, and everyone in the chat, have a great night.
Oh man. Dude, it's so cool to me when people who make like some of the heaviest